Okay, so in this slide video, we're going to talk about Excel, just a brief introduction. We're going to go through just a couple slides, and then we're going to jump over to actual demoing Excel, getting familiar with the workspace, and how to maneuver in that environment. So looking back to the fundamental problem solving, when we use Excel, we're really dealing with the analysis part of the problem solving cycle, really where we get to the meat of we have our data, how do we analyze it? Excel is a very helpful tool to do that. And as we've been discussing to this point in the semester, problem solving, at least from our conversations, is a systematic process and it's driven by data. It's not haphazard and it's not guesswork. It's actually step by step, and we base our solutions on actual data. And how do we do that? How do we actually analyze data to come to a solution? Well, that's where Excel comes in. This really helps us do a number of things, primarily manage our data, manipulate our data, and analyze. That's of course a big one we're going to be talking about in the next couple of weeks. And then also gives us capabilities to present our data with graphs and tables and such. So giving an example, next couple slides we're going to go through just a simple question and different ways of presenting or visualizing data that are from poor to well or good. And we're going to see how the way we present and visualize data can actually have an impact on how we communicate it. And we use all this in Excel. We can do all this manipulation and visualization in Excel. So first, just a simple question. Who are the top two suppliers of natural gas to the U.S.? So the United States imports natural gas from different countries. It produces its own natural gas, but it does import from other countries. The question is, who are the top two? So we can have a data set in Excel in a whole big spreadsheet in every single country by number of years. But of course, we can't even read the text here along the top, which I think is country names, or even down along the left side, which is, I believe, the dates, by year. And so to show everything in a huge table like this, yes, it's all the information, but we got to hunt and dig for it. And this is a poor representation of the data. It really doesn't help us answer that question because we are no closer to a solution than when we started, right? Another way may be to solidify or condense down to our importers. Okay, of course we export, but really our question deals with these importing countries. And we see that we have Algeria, Canada, Egypt, Mexico, Nigeria, Qatar, Trinidad and Tobago, and some others. And this is very helpful. It gives us, months of a year, and it gives us quantities, right, of imported natural gas. And this is helpful. Okay, we could probably sit here for a little bit and add these up across the right side here and come to a total, right, a sum total, and decide who has imported the most. And we could maybe just kind of look here. It looks like Canada, right? It's got the largest numbers across all of these, so they're probably the largest. The second one, well, a lot of these don't even show any numbers, but maybe Trinidad and Tobago, okay, would appear that would be. So we could probably sit here for a few minutes and pull out the answer to this question, who are the top two suppliers of natural gas to the U.S. But I would argue that we're still requiring a little bit of time to pull that information out. The reader is required to actually sit there and do the analysis themselves, right? We don't want the reader to have to do that. We want to do the analysis, come to a solution, and present that solution so that it's clear and it almost jumps off the page. Excel is going to help us do these kinds of things. Excel can help us solidify it down to a table like this. Excel can also help us present it as a graph. So here we've shown the top three, okay? And so we have natural gas imports from Trinidad and Tobago, the blue, from Canada, the brown, and from Mexico, the green, okay? So to answer this question, I mean, it's clear that Canada is the first, or that has imports the most to the United States, followed by, we could argue, Trinidad and Tobago on average, right? So this graph really shows clear representation of who the top two suppliers are. It pulls out all the unnecessary information, highlights the top two, well, top three that we can see then. It also shows how much larger Canada is, right, than the second largest, Trinidad and Tobago. So it really gives a nice representation of how much more natural gas we import from Canada compared to the second or third highest importer in country. So I feel like this representation of our data really helps us answer the question, really presents it in a clear, concise way that almost jumps off the page at us. And Excel has allowed us to, or can allow us to, get our data into a format like this and to really help us analyze and come to a solution based on our data that really helps the audience that we're communicating to understand it, and also helps us to come to a conclusion. So with that just quick overview, we're going to jump over to Excel now. So I'll switch over to Excel. We can, of course, just go ahead and type it in here. And so anytime you get Excel to open, you'll probably have an option of all different things, right? 9 times out of 10, maybe 10 times out of 10, we're going to use this blank workbook. There's other options of workbooks you can use, templates that Excel has already set up for us. We're probably not going to use these, but just so you're aware that they're there in future situations. There's also, lots of business templates for all different types of situations in business, industrial types of scenarios, but we're really going to focus on just the blank one. We're going to start out slow, and then as you need to in the future, you can use some of those templates. So we have Excel open here. This is our spreadsheet, right? So a spreadsheet being arranged in rows and columns. Okay, and of course, each one of these cells then, just like Battleship, has a reference range, C3, E5, right? And we can input data into these cells, right? And start to build our data set. We can also import data, copy and paste our data into here. But what I want to stress just in this short little demo is we have space here to put in numbers or words, and we have tabs along the top. Okay, so right now we're in the Home tab, and this is where predominantly we're going to stay when we want to format things. So if we want to come in here and format these numbers as numbers with decimal places, we could do that. We could format them as currency, dollars, right? We could format them as a date. We could format them as time or a percentage, okay? We can also change the decimal, how many decimal places we have, just by adding those there. Some quick things here we can do. We can quickly, common ones here, we can add just by those buttons. We can also do the drop down to get to fuller. There's also a custom. You can go into more formatting, and you could go to custom if there's a custom way that you want to represent maybe 1 hour or 2 hour with the HRS trailing. So to format numbers, you can also format something as text. Where's the text? Is at the bottom here. Text usually does not play well with equations, so if you have something formatted as a text, it won't be able to be calculated as an equation as you would expect. There's also options for making things bold, underlining, italicizing, changing the color, right? So we have all different types of options here that we can do. A lot of the formatting, again, is done on this tab here. We can put in borders around. Another thing I want to show here There's going to be conditional formatting that we're going to talk about in a few class periods. There's also some quick auto summing, so we want to sum all of those, so we can just quickly sum those up. So we just select the cell that we want the sum to go into. We hit the sum. We could hit the average, counting, max, min, right? We could do all these things. So on the next tab here, we can insert. A lot of inserting options, mostly charts. So we could come in here and select our data, and we could go to insert a chart, recommended chart. It's going to give us options of what it thinks would look good based on the data. We can go in there and of course pick our own if we want. Some of them will be appropriate for the data, some won't. So inserting then is where you're going to insert charts. We've also already done this. We've inserted shapes for our flow chart, so that's on that tablet or that drop down there. Page layout. You might see me have the page layout and come into grid lines and deselect the view grid lines. As a preference here, I just do that because it looks cleaner. If you like the actual grid lines for the cells, that's fine as well. Formulas, we're going to spend time in formulas, okay, in a few weeks. And this is basically just a tab to get to different formulas that we have options of. And then also a formula function builder where we can type in, I want to find an average, and it says, you want to probably use one of these averaging functions. Okay, so it kind of searches for our function for us. Data, we're going to spend time in data. This is where we're going to actually take text and input it into columns so we can copy and paste data in. We're also going to do some what-if analyses and then some other more advanced data analysis. So those are the kind of the main tabs we're going to live in along here. The review, you can do spelling and stuff like that. This tab here is very helpful. No, it's not a tab, it's just a search capability that you could come in here and let's say I have these data highlighted and I forget where to go to insert a chart, but I want to make those into a chart. I could come in here, I could select them, and I could say insert chart, and it's going to pull up a bar chart. It's going to pull up different types of charts it thinks I may want, and maybe I could just come in here and say, oh, that looks good, right? So that's kind of a quick guide, or helps you quickly get to what you're trying to do without knowing exactly what tab or place to click on. Say you want to modify something on the chart here. Edit title, right? So add chart elements. Well, legend chart title right there, right? And maybe that's not exactly allowed you to edit it, but we can go here. You can do quick layouts. You can find other ways of editing or formatting that chart title. You can remove it, you can add it, more title options, and that's where it'll pull up here ways to modify that even more than you've already done so. Okay, with some different options. But this tell me what you want to do option in Excel is actually a new option in Excel 2016. It's very helpful to get you to where you want to go more quickly. Okay, just a few more things and we'll wrap this video up. You can have tabs, different tabs, as well as far as worksheets. And so right now we're in worksheet 1. We could add another worksheet by just adding new. So now we have a whole new worksheet, right? We can add as many as we want. We can come in here and right click and we can rename them, right? We could come in here and we could move or copy them. We could add colors to the tab. Okay, so just be aware that we have tabs of worksheets that we can have multiples. Okay, we can also add and delete columns. So we have our rows here and our columns here, so we can add and delete columns or rows. So first, if we want to add a column, we would select to the right of where we want to add, you right click and insert, and that will insert a new column to the left of where we had previously selected. Same with rows. Rows will add them, right click, insert above. Okay. You can also delete rows and columns by just simply deleting. It will delete the one you have highlighted. You can make rows or columns larger. So you can come in here in between the two rows, and when it turns to that shape, your cursor, you can click and drag and make that row width larger or smaller. You can also come in here and select a row and drag that width or that height larger or smaller. If you have a column that you have data that doesn't fit into the column, okay, it's too narrow, right? And you want to actually get that width larger. And say you have a whole bunch of columns. The easy, quick way is to just select all the columns you want to auto format or auto dimension. And come in here, and once they're all selected, when you see that cursor, double click. It will automatically dimension the width to be large enough for the largest piece of data in each of those columns. And that's an easy way to kind of format the columns so that you can see all your data. And finally, the file. This is where you can, of course, save as, print as well. And I would suggest that you save your files into a place that you know where they are, maybe a TSM 115 folder. And when you print, as you need to print, you can just print to the printers in the lab. Okay, I hope this has been helpful. We'll get more into Excel in the coming days, but I'll see you in class.